Week 14 upon us already. Fantasy playoffs are just around the corner. Really is crunch time. Sweaty brows, clammy palms, squeaky asses. Luckily, you've got the three of us to take you by the hand and lead you through the swampy marshes that is fantasy football. As always, we'll have a rundown of what happened in last week's games, any news and injuries, bad performances, good performances. We'll look ahead to next week, our projection beaters, also the tier list, what games you want to be watching, what you should avoid. My name's Alex Sharples. I'm here with Alex and Lewis Brindle, and this is In the Pocket Across the Pond.
Lads, where else to start? You know, we all know what everyone wants us to talk about. It was the big thing that happened this week. A titan of the league being shown in a light that we'd never seen them before. I'm obviously talking about Ryan Tannehill being the backup holder for the Titans. Did anyone else see Ryan Tannehill holding the extra point?
No.
They missed it.
That's insulting, isn't it?
He was on the field as the holder, and they missed the kick.
I feel like Ryan Tannehill deserves more respect than that. That's appalling. Come on. What has he done to deserve that? Apart from just being an old man. Decrepit man.
I was thinking that as well in the moment, but then I also was thinking, it's like, no, he's helping the team out by any means necessary. That is a good teammate. To put the ego aside and be like, yeah, I'm going to hold this ball terribly.
He's the water boy next week.
Done the old Dan Marino. Laces were out.
I know, yeah. I know.
Well, at least he's not heading for the booth, though.
Ray Finkel.
Yeah.
Ray Finkel.
At least he's not heading for the booth.
No.
That's another player.
I was obviously talking about Tyler Boyd throwing an interception.
What was he playing at?
He literally threw it directly to... It was a great pass to Josh Allen.
Yeah. Have you seen that Josh Allen's 2 career interceptions?
Are Josh Allen and Tyler Boyd?
Yeah. How bizarre is that? Yeah. That was a terrible pass by Tyler Boyd, but a great win for the Bengals.
Yeah, they did look good. We'll get onto them. Obviously, right, let's talk 49ers 42. Should start calling them the 42ers, because they beat the Cowboys 42 something as well, didn't they? Maybe not. 49ers 42, 19 Eagles. A thrashing, wasn't it, Al?
Yeah. It was, to be honest with you. It looked a bit of a slow start from San Francisco, but once they got going, the Eagles couldn't stop them, and it was weird. It's like the tables were turned all the time for the previous weeks of the season. It feels like it's inevitable that the Eagles are going to win, and there's nothing that they can do, and the kind of fight seems a bit meaningless from the other team, a bit futile. All the fight back from the Eagles, especially in the fourth quarter, just seemed pretty futile because they'd just give it to Deebo Samuel and he'd score another touchdown. I didn't expect it. I thought the Eagles would win. I don't know if I'm ready to write them off winning the Super Bowl just yet, but... they need to sort that defense out. They've got a lot of names on the defense.
That defense, yeah.
A lot of names, not much production though.
That defense is a liability at this point. Like, the secondary has been awful all season. 260 passing yards per game and over 2 passing touchdowns per game. That's on the season, by the way. And you just look at the play this week, like so many missed tackles, so many guys slumping, like just being shrugged off.
Yeah.
On top of that, even the rush defense, which has been solid most of the year, has been ran all over for the past 3 weeks, like 160 rushing yards per game over that span. Sharples, what did you make of this game?
Yeah, well, I was shaking my fist in the first quarter because obviously it was only... I think it was 2 field goals in the first quarter. McCaffrey had barely even touched the ball. I was fuming. I was looking on Twitter to see if anyone else was sharing my opinion. Everyone was sharing my opinion. It was get McCaffrey the ball. And yeah, it was weird. It was like it was like the 49ers were a bit sort of intimidated at first, and then they realised, oh, actually, these guys aren't that good at defending, and so let's just stick it on them. And they did.
Yeah.
I mean, two, massive plays from Debo, like nearly 40, 50 yards. And yeah, once that first touchdown went in, they relaxed a little bit. They were like, let's just go and run amok. And you're right, the secondary was awful. The tackling was non-existent. I don't know how many run after catch yards they got, but it must have been a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's similar to what you were saying, Al, last week. Like, the Eagles put up a decent amount of points, and normally that'd be enough to win them the game. But when an offense comes up and throws at them, then it's not going to be enough. So interesting. I wouldn't write the Eagles off, just like I didn't write off the Niners when they lost a few. So yeah, NFC heating up is going to be really interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I mean the 49ers. Weren't they my Super Bowl? I changed it to the Cowboys.
I mean, also in this game, DeAndre Swift, my beautiful, sweet DeAndre Swift, took a shot.
Oh, wow.
He was one of those where he landed on his back and bounced straight back up onto his legs.
Yeah.
Wowzers. Only one person took a heavier shot than that, though, this weekend. This isn't a lead into a joke. I was actually talking about Derrick Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Taking an awful shot. This isn't a lead into a callous joke about a poor man on the sidelines.
Oh.
I thought that's where you were going.
I thought that's where you were going. I think the listeners thought that's where you're going as well.
Are we going to get into that in a bit?
The sideline...
All the sideline
Yeah, we
action.
will. We got a little section, sideline action, in a bit. But,
okay.
Yeah, speaking of the Cowboys, as they were just mentioned, excellent game. This is what primetime football should be.
Yeah.
I've got a little section for us in a little bit about what primetime football should not be. I won't spoil that yet. This is what primetime football should be. Seahawks 35-41 Cowboys. I mean, saying that is biased. We do play fantasy. We want to see offensive football. I know, sometimes it is nice to see defenses turn up. When it's 35-41, maybe they didn't. But, yeah, what a game. Cowboys doing what they did, doing what they needed to win against a decent team. Sharples, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, absolute barn burner, to be fair. Exactly what you want for fantasy. Even better when you're against a team who has both DK Metcalf and Geno Smith, and they leave them both on the bench.
Wow.
Really good game. I think if you're the Cowboys, as much as the Seahawks do have these weapons, they've not really been that good. This season they've not been as good as they could have been. So I think if you're the Cowboys, who've got this all-star defense, you'd like to be making the statement that we're not going to let them run this much up on us. But they've shown that even when teams score a lot against them, they can match them step for step. Just a really good game. And also the Seahawks should take some positives as well, because it is not easy to put 35 up on these Cowboys.
Not at all. Especially that secondary that has been very good for most of the year. But DK Metcalf, what a player! Flashbacks of his combine on that run after catch.
Just went. That's a man who's not scored enough touchdowns this year.
Yeah,
I mean, he just wasn't.
I think
back.
was that run after catch not the fastest recorded speed in the league this year?
I'll be surprised if it isn't. I would be surprised.
I think it might have been. I think it might
faster
have been.
Faster than Tyreek Hill?
I think it was. I can't remember the speed off the top of my head. But I think there was, obviously they're doing that in-season Hard Knocks. I think I saw a little clip about some chatter that Tyreek Hill was saying about just seeing that DK Metcalf had the fastest recorded time and being like,
DK Metcalf's like double the size.
I know, imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine a guy his size running that fast.
Yeah.
What did you think about this game, Al?
It was either an amazing way or a terrible way to start your weekend, because there were so many fantasy points. So you either had the fantasy points in it or you were against the fantasy points in it. Either way, you'd rather take that than a game with no fantasy points in it, I suppose. But I think it's just another...
Sorry about the creaky
solid,
door.
The creaky door. It's just another solid case in the Dak Prescott MVP
Are we buying that? By the way, are we? You
have to. I mean, you look at the names that are there. I mean, you were ridiculing me this time last month for being a huge Brock Purdy fan. Well, he's now the favourite to win the MVP. I don't think he will win the MVP. I think realistically, I would have Prescott over him. I would have Lamar Jackson higher than he currently is.
I would have
Tyreek Hill higher than he currently is.
The most valuable player on that team, on that offense, is Christian McCaffrey. Though I would argue Christian McCaffrey unlocks that offense more than Brock Purdy unlocks that offense.
But Brock Purdy's running the offense, and people say, "Oh, but it's a system, it's Shanahan's system." But no one barring Matt Ryan, Falcons Super Bowl year, has ran that offense like Purdy's running it this year.
Yeah, true.
So
true. I mean, I just posed that question just for a bit of conversation. I do think Dak Prescott is playing MVP caliber football. Sharples, do you? Famous Cowboys hater.
Don't get me wrong, he's been unbelievable. I don't think he'll win it. I think it's going to be a case of he'll have a really good season this season, and then if he does something similar next season, that's when he win it. I think people aren't ready to give it to Dak yet this season. I mean, if it was me, I know it definitely won't happen because I don't even think Jerry Rice won one, but Tyreek Hill is.
There's a lot of chatter about Tyreek Hill.
Fault.
Yeah, I mean, I think barring the Eagles winning out the rest of the season and winning in a fashion that makes us forget what just happened against the 49ers and clinches the 1 seed for that team.
Yeah.
Barring that happens, because if that does happen, it's going to be Jalen Hurts winning the MVP. Barring that, someone quite unexpected is going to win the MVP, as in someone that we had kind of no inkling was going to win it at the start of the season, like a Purdy, like a Prescott, McCaffrey, Hill, because I don't think Mahomes is going to win it. You can make a case for Lamar, but I suppose the case against Lamar is Lamar Jackson himself, because if he wins MVP this year and you compare that to the last time Lamar won the MVP, it's night and day. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable. When he won the MVP, and now the Baltimore team's better this year, but Jackson certainly isn't better at the moment, but I'm sure they'd still rather have a better record in that bye week than Lamar Jackson putting up silly numbers.
Yeah,
absolutely. Elsewhere in the league, Chiefs 19-27 Packers. Well, where do we want to start on this one? Do we want to start with the Chiefs or do we want to start with the Packers? Al?
Packers, because I don't know whether Jordan Love is really good or quite bad. I can't tell. It's been Jekyll and Hyde, and it's like, by Love's logic this season, he'll have a terrible last 2 or 3 games of the season and completely ruin your fantasy playoffs because he was really good, then really quite bad, and now he's been really good for like 3 weeks. He's like the inverse Kirk Cousins. He just shows up in prime time, Jordan Love. And you said when we were texting about it at the weekend, Lou, you just said like he's just super in sync with these wide receivers.
He just
losing Christian Watson, which is a shame. That guy's got chronic hamstring injuries, But yeah, I mean, pretty impressive by the Packers. Let me just pose this one to you. Who's more likely to win a playoff game, Packers or Rams?
Oh, because the Rams are rolling as well. Rams are rolling, putting up 36 points on a pretty reeling Bengals defense, but still a decent defense nonetheless. Like Myles Garrett, I know wasn't,
Browns defense, Browns.
Yeah, Browns. There's still a good defense, and that defense isn't just one player, But yeah, I would say Rams there because they've got the playoff experience.
Sharps.
Yeah, I would also say Rams purely because I think their highs are higher than the Packers, and I think if you're playing them both on the right days, I think the Rams would score more points, and that's sort of what you need to do in a playoff if you're going to win like a one hitter. So yeah, Rams, I think.
Yeah,
and the Chiefs. I don't know. There is something to be.
Bad.
there's something to be read from this whole Travis Kelce thing, because it is. I don't want to be a hater, but all I'm saying is,
sounds like you're a hater.
People, we haven't been talking about the guy the same.
No,
for fantasy wise, and it just so happens to be to coincide with when the whole Taylor Swift thing came about. Weirdly, it does. Weirdly,
sounds like you're a hater.
It sort of does.
Sounds like you're a hater.
Chiefs need to figure something out, because they just don't look explosive, and then in this game the defense was exploited by a very good head coach. You know, I was doubting my Matt LaFleur coach of the year pick, but
there's a lot of coaches that I think are in the for not necessarily coach of the year, but like. Yeah, like you know, like the that's a good coach award. You know, Shane Steichen.
Good coach.
I still think that at the Browns, what's he called?
The Browns head coach.
Yeah,
is called Chet Johnson. Buying time. He is called Furiously Typing.
Kevin Stefanski. I still think Kevin Stefanski's done a really good job. I think Kendall Roy from Succession. What's he called as well? Arizona head coach.
Gannon.
Jonathan Gannon, I think, is coaching his ass off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
He's got the Cardinals playing pretty hard.
He obviously again a good head coach who they can build around. You know, and the Cardinals is another great example. You know. They're not playing too well. The record, you know, they had a good win this week against the Steelers. What are they, by the way? But anyway, good win against the Steelers. They're not going to have a flattering record at the end of the season, but they're building something.
Bring it Marvin Harrison Jr. next year.
They're building something there. They're letting a team sort of develop and grow. I'm not at all throwing shade on the team that we were talking about last week for an extended segment. He's a good head coach as well. A bit of a goon, but
yeah, he is a bit of a goon, but decent head coach. Yeah, and you know, the draft falls right for him, and they could be in with a shot at one of college's best players. Nothing much. Speaking of college football, nothing much happened to report on last week.
No, it didn't.
Nothing much happened.
This isn't a college football podcast. So.
Not Florida State. Winning all 13 of the games and still not getting to college football playoffs.
I don't really. I sort of understand the politics of this, and I sort of.
It's because the quarterback's injured and they want to see the best 4 games. However, basically, from the outside looking in, and for maybe some of our listeners who might have caught some of what happened at the weekend, yes, you are correct in thinking Florida State won every single one of the games this season, and yet still got told they aren't one of the best 4 teams in college football. 2 teams with 1 loss are better than them, or maybe 2 teams with 1 loss. Yeah, it's a whole thing, but that was a serious issue. Caleb Williams' team absolutely nowhere. USC.
Oh yeah.
And there's still chatter that we'll get into it in draft season, I'm sure, but there's still chatter that he's apparently gonna carry on playing for another year.
Good for him.
In college.
Good for him. I would do the same if the Browns had the number 1 pick. We were just talking about good head coaches. Let's talk about head coaches that aren't going to be head coaches next year. The Patriots and the Chargers. You had a fun fact about this game, Al.
Oh, the Patriots and the Chargers. Did you mean the Birds, by the way, just then? You said the Browns had the number 1 pick. Did you mean the Birds?
I said the Birds, didn't I?
No, you said the Browns. You were throwing shade on a pretty good team there, Lou.
Yeah,
I think it's just all... It's just.
Did I say the Browns?
Yeah, it's just.
So I was meant to say the Browns. I was meant to say the Browns earlier on, and I was meant to say the Browns earlier on, and I said the Bengals, and then I was meant to say I was reading the word Bears on your screen where we've got the scores up, and I said Browns.
I mean, it's just.
I
Freudian
assumed that
slip.
the Browns had traded for the number one, like had previously got like a pick or something. Cause I thought just because you didn't
okay,
like the league.
sorry.
Those that traded for it.
Sorry,
just
but,
used to them being terrible. Well, what you said? The fact that the Patriots covered
The spread,
covered the spread.
and they didn't score a point.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Awful game. I mean, I know there was weather. That's
There's weather everywhere.
That's such a
all the
stupid.
time.
That's such a stupid. There was weather. It was raining heavily, but wow, 0-6 is pathetic.
Yeah.
Really, it's absolutely pathetic. Any other notes on these games, lads? Before we move on.
Austin Eckler.
No, games, not bad players.
I need to get out of the way because you just mentioned the game.
Austin,
I think CBS commentary team are looking to hire a running back, lads. He's heading to the booth, I think.
Okay,
comments on the
booth,
games. Sorry. Texans and Stroud are still legit, so that was nice to see. And I think the Lions' offense being back on track is good. I think the defense worries me heading into the playoffs. It doesn't worry me for fantasy football. It's good to have a team that scores and concedes a lot of points. But, real life football wise, playoffs, I'm a little bit worried by the Lions and how their defense is looking.
Sharples, any other notes on these games?
No, yeah, I was going to mention the Lions as well, purely because I know they got the win in the end, but they absolutely disintegrated at one point in the game. And considering how high we are on them, they need to tighten up the screws if they want to make a deep playoff run. Because if the Saints can do that to them, then God forbid what some of the better teams can do.
Exactly.
I agree. Do you want to talk sideline antics?
Oh, yeah.
Go on. What happened?
Well, I can think of 3 things that happened. Have you got more?
No,
At least 3.
No, go on.
I can think of the Eagles head of security getting involved in a player interaction. Is that his job?
No, not
Dom.
his job at all.
Big Dom, yeah, obviously getting cheered off. It's fairly certain that isn't this guy's job.
No, definitely
So,
not.
stay off the field, you idiot.
Yeah.
He's going to come for me now, isn't he?
He is.
He's going to find me.
I mean, who was he chirping at as well? Was it
Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty heavy set dude, but I'm probably taking the professional football player in that one.
With pads on.
Yeah. There was the guy who Tyreek Hill took his phone and
That wasn't
videoed himself.
That was
that last week?
That was a couple of weeks back.
Oh, was
yeah.
it? Sorry, I read about it this week because I saw all the kind of posts were saying give this guy his job back because Tyreek Hill just took his phone.
Well, no, I think it was like a planned interaction.
Oh, yeah. But still,
it was a
it's
planned
like-
interaction if Tyreek Hill broke away for a 80-yard touchdown grab. So a pretty frequently planned interaction.
And you had a man just minding his own business.
Oh my
doing his
God.
job.
I know.
And he
I'm
got
not-
his
I'm
leg
not-
broke by Alvin Kamara.
I'm not. I
got rolled up on Alvin Kamara.
all I'm saying is I
Alvin
agree with you. Horrendous for that man.
But
Not minding his own business. I would say that is the risk of the job on the sideline. If you want to.
No. It literally.
I'm joking.
It looked like it looked like 4:00. It was like the big hand was 12. That's his leg. And his
Okay,
foot,
we get the
his
image.
foot was,
Kamara just runs off as well.
No, but like in that situation, what do you do? Like,
sorry for breaking.
I agree. You probably should have stopped and said sorry for breaking your leg, and then helped into the locker room.
I didn't see the magic sponge. come out.
Atrocious.
No,
I
the
know.
magic sponge. I know. Maybe if someone had a magic sponge on him, then that man would be walking fine today.
It wouldn't be
I mean, if every were to break your leg, though.
prime time. No, it wasn't prime time.
No,
sorry.
no. I'm just saying, of all the instances or places to break your leg, do it in front of millions of people on an NFL stage. You're going to get the best care. You're probably going to get a bunch of people on Instagram saying, "Give him $1 million
Give him $1 million. Listen, it sounds like we're being bitter here. Well, no.
It's funny you say about getting the best care, though, but did you see when Trevor Lawrence went down, they couldn't find a functioning car or the one that he had was broken. He had to walk for 45 minutes to get to the X-ray room.
What is that about? What is this? I didn't know that. I did not know that. That is, it was probably a low ankle sprain that turned into a high ankle sprain.
Yeah. And I mean, also, he's got like these tiny guys around him. Trevor Lawrence is a massive
big dude. We've seen him in person. He is a big dude.
Yeah, exactly.
That was Sideline Antics. Before we get into the players, though, right? A quick little game for you, because we were talking about primetime games before. The Cowboys won. Cowboys and Seahawks being a good one. We've had plenty of examples of not good primetime games, and a lot of the reason for that is backup quarterbacks. Okay, now there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 backup quarterbacks who have played in primetime this season. Name them.
8. Jake Browning. Oh no, prime time. So
just in prime time. That's why I tried whittling it down, because I'll be honest with you, the amount of backup quarterbacks that have just played this year is insane.
Game. So Jake Browning and CJ Beathard.
Okay,
that was the other day alone. That game was in prime time.
Sharples, any suggestion?
Jets. I mean, Tim Boyle,
and Trevor Siemian. Did they both play in prime time, Lou?
Does Zach Wilson count as a backup?
As we're going.
Okay, yes. So Trevor Siemian hasn't.
Okay, so we got 3.
Does Josh Dobbs count as a backup?
Josh Dobbs, 4.
Does he count twice?
Technically, yeah, but
right.
He's one man.
Dorian Thompson.
Minshew?
No.
Minshew?
No.
Flacco.
Jameson? Jameis Winston?
No, not prime time.
Zappy.
Not Zap.
Zap. Trubisky hasn't, has he?
Oh, the fella in Washington. What's his face? Heineken.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, in Atlanta, you mean?
No.
We're missing 4.
You're missing 4,
right.
yeah.
Let's quickly get this.
Two are actually still the quarterbacks of their teams.
Who's throwing the ball in Tennessee now? Will Levis.
Will Levis.
He's not a backup anymore, though. He's not a backup.
No. So I should have specified my definition of this was players who weren't the designated starters at the start of the season.
So Will Levis is one then, yeah.
Trubisky didn't, did he? Did Trubisky play on prime time?
The guy in Las Vegas, O'Connell.
O'Connell, yeah.
Oh, the Giants guy? DiNucci?
No, it's not DiNucci. It's DeVito.
Nope.
No. This is torture.
You're in the right ballpark, though. Tyrod Taylor, yes. Tyrod Taylor did start prime time.
You got
one more to get.
Give us AFC, NFC.
NFC. I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
He went on a long journey with a few friends.
What?
Across Mordor.
Oh.
Bilbo Bajan.
Bilbo
Bajan. Yeah.
Tyson Bagent. The Bears quarterback. So that's just a little insight as to why a lot of primetime games have been crap.
Yeah.
Let's get into the categories, though.
It's mad how many we reeled off as well. Like, that's how bad it's been this year.
That's what I mean. The amount of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But let's get into our categories. Worst team. Let's start with worst team. Al.
We should all say worst team and impressive victory in unison, I think.
Okay, worst team in unison. 3, 2, 1.
Patriots. Oh.
Okay.
Jets. Here's a fun fact about the Jets that I bet you two didn't know or forgot about. You know they've got a running back called Dalvin Cook.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Again, just another example of how insane it is, how quickly you can fall from grace in this in this league, really. But
speaking of that, can I just a little side note? Often, because we've not been watching the NFL super long, like 6-7 years. But it might be longer than some people who listen to the pod. And from time to time, we mention players, and we like a bit like we did with Kyler Murray. It's a bit like, if you've not seen him play, we want to get across how unbelievable this guy is. Russell Wilson didn't have a particularly good game, but he made an amazing throw to Courtland Sutton, and I subsequently watched a few YouTube highlight reels on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, if you only know Broncos Russell Wilson, then you're not getting the full picture. Russell Wilson was amazing. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Like Hall of Fame level amazing kind of thing. And it's a shame that we're probably
if he was a sandwich, he would be the Danger Witch. Genuine Subway sandwich that Russell Wilson has.
And if this was your first year in fantasy football, then that random Jets backup running back called Dalvin Cook was just one of the best running backs in the league.
Until last year.
Yeah.
Literally until last season.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Anyway, sorry. So we all said Patriots, Jets.
Yeah, let's go impressive victory then, see if we can all get that one correct, right? 3, 2, 1, 49ers.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
42ers.
Not buying.
Not buying it, Al. Not buying
Chargers.
it. Chargers.
Because it was an ugly, awful win that they should be embarrassed by. I wouldn't want to win 6-0. I wouldn't want to win an NFL game a score less than what football games finish.
Yeah.
Often.
Yes. Especially if you support Man United.
Yeah.
But they're losing by that score.
Yeah.
Sharples.
I got you.
Sharples not buying it win.
To be fair, you made some good points about them before, but I had to go with Cardinals. And their next few games it's like the Niners, the Cowboys, Seahawks.
Yeah, it's
they ain't winning a game rest of the season.
It's a gauntlet. Ooh. It is a gauntlet. Yeah, I also went Cardinals. They're not going to compete in that division, especially with the Rams well in form. But again, good to see that they can compete at an early stage in the new regime.
McBride looks an absolute monster as well. There was one drive where he just kept throwing it at him. The touchdown got ruled out. He threw it straight back to him again for another touchdown.
Yeah, he looks like a really good player, and so good that he made the other tight end lose his job, Zach Ertz.
Oh yeah.
Let's move on to the players, though. Top 5 players at each position this week. We have at quarterback Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jake Browning, and Trevor Lawrence. At running back, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, James Conner. Some wild names in there for this season. Mixon, Conner, Henry. Okay. Wide receiver Metcalf, Samuel, Collins, Lamb, Hill. I also chucked Jamar Chase in there because he had a great game.
Yeah.
Tight end, Sam Laporta. Is Sam Laporta the new best tight end in the league? Yes, that was a rhetorical question. Okay. He is. Evan Engram, for fantasy and real life. Evan Engram, McBride, as you just said, Trent McBride. Ferguson, still doing really good for the Cowboys. And then Harrison Bryant for the Browns. The Browns, not the Bengals or the Bears, the Browns.
You idiot.
Any notes on any of those players, Al?
Oh, yes. Mike Evans. You didn't mention him, but
he wasn't top 5 at the position. That's why.
7th this week, 25 fantasy points, 162 yards and a tutty. What a season Mike Evans is having, by the way. We talked about him last week, but I'm just pulling up his numbers now. He's got 5 games potentially left to play. 4 if they sit him in the last week. Why would they? I don't know, because I think Tampa Bay might be in contention for the playoffs if they kind of keep being competitive and winning games that they can. 29.2 fantasy points. I meant I was looking at half PPR.
Get that PPR up.
Yeah,
only way to play.
Only way to play. So I'm just looking. He needs to score to have. In 2016, he was finished as the wide receiver 2 with 304 fantasy points. He's currently with potentially 5 games left on 222 fantasy points.
Wow.
Potentially looking at Mike Evans's best season, or if not, definitely second best season in his age 30 season, 10th year in the league. He's putting Hall of Fame numbers up, I would say, in his career and in this season. And just really fun to watch at the minute. Really fun if you've got him on your fantasy team. Yeah, and I thought Nico Collins had a really good game.
Nice. Sharples, percentage, give me a percentage here. What's the percentage of people that you think had DK Metcalf on the bench?
Oh, have you got it in front of you? Do you know the actual...
No, I'm just interested.
Okay. Yeah, I think probably 60% of people would have benched him, yeah.
I agree. Because I did. Obviously I did, because why wouldn't you? Why would you not? Yeah. Anyway, who stuck out to you this week, Sharples?
I'd have to go Joe Mixon, even more so because last week he looked absolutely disastrous, and I was cursing the fact that obviously Burrow had gone down and this might be done. But I mean, if they keep using him like that rest of the season, he could be an absolute league winner. That is the Joe Mixon that I drafted in the 3rd round, the guy who's bit of receiving, bit of rushing, just doing everything, being involved in the offense, being a key cog. So if Joe Mixon's going to be doing that for the rest of the season, I'll be a very happy chappy.
Yeah, and obviously we saw, Chase, Mixon, Browning, all with good games. That was just a bit of hope, I think, for if you had sort of pieces in this Bengals offense that, okay, this offense can still tick over, can still do a job. And that Jaguars team is not a bad team, so it was quite impressive the points they were able to put up. I mean, for me, Lamb, Hill, it's like clockwork at this point. I think that first touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill is maybe my favourite touchdown of the year, just because of how satisfying it was. The ball flew just higher than the screen that you were seeing it on, and then came down like right into the breadbasket. Tyreek Hill didn't even miss a beat on his run. It was just an excellent throw, an excellent adjustment to catch it, because there's even interviews with Tyreek Hill saying like, yeah, we weren't on the same page in terms of the route. I just kept running, he threw it up for me. Just amazing that I honestly can't. I'm running out of superlatives to talk about Tyreek Hill at this point. He is an incredible football player. He's gonna get 2,000 yards, and I saw a really good video of him as well this week. And I don't know when it was from. I don't know whether it was from this past week, but he's talking to high school kids who are playing, and he's talking to one who's like a smaller lad, and he's like, it don't matter, the size of you or anything like that. Your size is your size. That now you know that. Work at all the other stuff. He's like, look at me, look how small I am. I'm the most feared player in the league, and it's like, it's true. And then CD Lamb, amazing playing. He's been unlocked, been truly unlocked.
How many targets did he get? Was it like 17 or something?
Yeah, something like that. He's playing some incredible. I think they're the two best players at wide receiver in the league. Quite comfortably this season, to be fair. I mean, obviously, AJ Brown was doing amazing, but he sort of fell off a little bit, whereas Lamb and Hill have sort of started really well and then have just skyrocketed,
And Jefferson got hurt.
Jefferson got hurt as well, which obviously, speaking to how good Justin Jefferson is, it's like, just quickly, next season in fantasy football, Jefferson, Lamb, Hill, who you taking?
I would order it. It really depends what happens at the quarterback position for Minnesota. If we say that Kirk Cousins comes back, then I would order it. Hill, Jefferson, Lamb.
Okay, Sharples.
And I'll be honest, Jefferson and Hill are closer than Hill and Jefferson are closer than Jefferson and Lamb for me. I still think Jefferson is a better receiver than CD Lamb.
Sharples.
I think I would agree with that exactly. If Kirk comes back, Hill, Jefferson, Lamb. Yeah.
Nice.
Can I just say that? Go on, Lee. You go on.
I was just going to say, well, if you've been listening to this podcast for both seasons we've been doing it, you all know my answer, Jamar Chase.
Okay. I'm just, as you're speaking, I'm just still looking at these Mike Evans numbers, and it's just because we said that...
this guy's obsessed with
I'm
Mike.
obsessed. No, but it comes back to what we said about players that kind of so quickly fall from grace. And like, you know, to have a player relevant for fantasy football, particularly running back, but any skill position really of the like tight end, wide receiver, running back, to have them consistent over a long period of time is a bit of an anomaly. And I'm looking here that Mike Evans, with this season stopped now, all 10 years of his career, he's been a top 24 running back. 7 of those years, wide receiver. 7 of those years, he's been a wide receiver 1.
Years.
So, yeah. So look, I mean, you're talking like 7 of the past 10 years, Mike Evans' name has been one of those top 12 names, which is, in this day and age of the NFL, like we've been saying, how quick people like come and go. Absurd.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Great player. Some not great players.
Oh, no.
Austin Eckler.
Oh, something's wrong. Something's really, really wrong. He might have that thing. Do you know that Najee Harris was running with like a big metal pole in his foot last year? Yes. He might have metal pole foot-itis.
If you listen, Austin Eckler, do you have metal pole foot-itis? Maybe we should ask Chris Hamstry.
Is it a thing? Chris Hamstry? Speaking of Chris Hamstry, dead quick. A really raw thing happened in our main league where Chris Hamstry's team and a certain Carolina Panthers fan, regular emailer in Rob's team, drew to 2 decimal places.
That is crazy.
103.56 to 103.56, which is,
absurd.
Crazy.
Mental.
Shouldn't happen. Should never happen. Draws in fantasy football are really just there as like an add-on thing. It's just, we've got to say that you can draw just because on the off chance it happens. But we played to 2 decimal places. You won't draw.
Yeah.
We played to 2 decimal places with like rosters of 9 or 10 players. You won't draw.
No.
Do you know what would be good? Like, say, in the unlikely event that you drew, the equivalent of overtime should be the app selects a random person from your bench and their score.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That is excellent.
I hope ESPN are listening this week. I know they were listening last week.
Yeah, they were. The bad
players.
The bad players.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd have said this last week. Zach Moss. It was a trap.
What are you on about?
It was a trap.
This week was the trap. He looked really good. I don't know if you're with me, Sharples. I'm writing this week off and putting Zach Moss back in my lineup.
Okay.
100%.
You've heard it,
100%. He was getting all the work. He's
Yeah.
just not played that much in
Yeah.
4 weeks. Once he gets his legs back under him, he's going to be a monster again.
Yeah, listeners, you heard it. 2 versus 1. Keep playing Zach Moss.
Okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, not a great game. Garrett Wilson, not great. I mean, we know that it's really Garrett Wilson's fault. Adam Thielen, Sharples' prince, again on this list. DeAndre Swift,
Lad! He got completely blown up on that play.
Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. Ooh. Surprising. Really surprising considering how that game went, that these 2 players just didn't really do much. David Njoku, first bad game in a little while. Drake London. Sharples, anything funny to say?
What, for Drake London?
Drake Bolton.
Drake Bolton.
Drake Bolton Town Centre.
Well, I just say that.
Devin Singletary as well, sort of. Maybe he was really just in the...
Well, a single carry.
He didn't get a single carry. That would be really good if he did. Maybe he was just in the... While Damien Pierce was injured. And then Pat Freiermuth, everybody started him, even in the flex, because he had an insane week.
More like Pat Dyermuth.
Okay.
No, because he was Dyer.
We're moving on. We're moving on from this
Crap
segment.
Fryermouth.
Moving on to this segment, from this segment into another segment that we will take no time on. Al?
The projection beaters from last week. Sorry.
This was one of those weeks where we were joking.
The best thing about it and I suppose it's frustrating for the listeners. They don't know the weeks that we're joking.
I know.
This week we're not joking.
No.
Last week we were. Sharples' Pacheco pick was nice though, and Jared Goff, Sam Howell, and two of the three quarterbacks that we chose had okay games. As I mentioned, Lou, you picked Sutton, who had a great touchdown.
Yeah, Sutton. That I was wanting to mention. You mentioned that touchdown before from the Russell Wilson standpoint. Amazing touchdown catch by Colin Sutton. Like, he's obviously, there were people saying it's a little bit of a push off. It was 6 of one and a half and dozen of the other, really. Like, he's being sort of hassled by the cornerback or the safety all the way down the route, and sort of just escapes him. And as he's falling, great grab, amazing touchdown catch. If you check that one out, that is a great grab, I'd say.
Ramondre Stevenson got injured. And Njoku was a bad pick from me.
Yeah.
Najee was fine for you. Calvin Ridley was a bad pick for Sharples. Troutman, congratulations, well done. All clap him.
All right, okay.
You got 1.6 fantasy
roll the dice, boys.
Sharples with the equivalent of the Patriots covering the spread by picking Troutman, who got 1.6, which I think is an appalling way to behave on the podcast. I picked Terry McLaurin, who was a complete goose.
Yeah.
Again, it's just this bizarre idea that Sam Howell has thrown 1 million passing yards this year, yet not one pass catcher on that team is viable for fantasy football. And then, unfortunately, Lewis's tight end pick, who was initially Dalton Schultz, didn't play. So Lou kindly texted me and Sharples.
There's no
very
proof.
confidently.
There is no proof
He
of
deleted
this.
the text message. Very confidently on Saturday, texted us saying, Schultz isn't going to play, so you can take this as a receipt that I'm picking Juwan Johnson.
I would like to say that you're like over exaggerating, but I literally was like, this is undeniable proof that I have said Juwan Johnson.
It was over text, but you could tell the tone was very sassy indeed.
Yeah, I know, it was very sassy. And just a quick note on Ramondre Stevenson. Pretty long name. We got around that this week on the Instagram by just putting Ramondre on there. So if you want to see us putting some nice Instagram posts up where we get around people with really long names by shortening the name or just calling them on a first name basis in the pocket across the pond at Instagram, you can find our projection beaters there for nice stuff like calling Ramondre Stevenson Ramondre because his name doesn't fit.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic stuff. What isn't fantastic stuff is all the injuries that happened this week. Let's start with Tank Dell, rookie sensation wide receiver for the Houston Texans. Wave him bye-bye off your fantasy teams because he's having surgery on a fractured fibula. His season is over. Why was he out there blocking a 1-yard run? Why was the smallest guy on the offense out there, the thinnest man on the offense out there?
I know.
Whatever, yeah. So, unfortunately, Tank Dell's season is over. That really is a shame. He was playing really well, emerging as probably the best out of this rookie wide receiver. Yeah, but we'll see him next year. Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain. We know it was a low ankle sprain before they made him walk 45 minutes to the locker room.
It was a medium ankle sprain just as he walked past the nacho cart.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to miss multiple weeks, so be prepared to be without him if you have him in your lineup, and also the collateral damage of that for the wide receivers and the offense as a whole, I would say. Ramondre Stevenson also exited the Patriots game, suffered a high ankle sprain on the field, not walking back to the locker room. He's going to miss a few weeks as well. I'm sure plenty of people picked up Ezekiel Elliott this week. I don't know what to expect from that, but he was a bit of a hot pickup. Marquise Brown exited his game with a heel injury. The Cardinals are on bye, so we'll hear more about that next week. Also, in the wide receiver category, Amari Cooper was ruled out with a head injury. We know that that's a concussion now, so you know the deal. Unless he's Chris Olave, who played this week, expect Cooper to miss a week. Christian Watson, Packers wide receiver, went down mid-play with a hamstring injury, which is never good. Mid-play, no contact from the opposing defensive players. So hamstring's a bit of a tricky one for him. He's been struggling with it for a while. So becoming a recurring injury, monitor it, but, it's not a good sign. Mm-hmm. Saints quarterback Derek Carr suffered the second most gruesome injury in that game. Shoulder.
We've done that. We've done it now.
Shoulder and back injuries, and is in concussion protocol as well. He's probably going to miss some time. And then Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett had to leave the game, also with an ankle injury, expected to miss time. No word on injured reserve yet. And then Brian Robinson Jr., Washington Commanders running back, ruled out with a hamstring injury versus the Dolphins. Commanders are on a bye week, so we'll hear more about that. And then a bit of news, Zach Wilson is starting for the Jets again.
Yay.
This is just a cruel carousel that the Jets are forcing us all to watch.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree, Sharples?
I'm so glad I didn't buy that Aaron Rodgers jersey at the start of the season.
Oh, yeah. He's coming back. Coming back.
And that's all.
On to week 14?
On to week 14.
Okay. Week 14, teams on bye, Arizona and Washington. Who cares? Doesn't affect anything, really. We'll start looking ahead to week 14, as we always do, with...
Hey, forget about it!
The Forget About It section of the podcast. Players that we're not going to talk about in detail here, but are in your starting lineups no matter what. That's why we said forget about it. At the quarterback position, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, and Pat Mahomes.
Forget about it!
Running back, McCaffrey, Karen, Kamara, Etienne, Barkley, A-Chain and Mostert, Bijan Robinson, Rashad White, Jacobs, Gibbs.
Forget about it!
A lot of running back options there for you. Wide receiver, Hill, Keenan Allen, Lamb, AJ Brown, Chase, Diggs, Amon-Ra, Evans, Mike Evans that is, Puka, Pittman.
Forget about it!
And probably Cooper Kupp. You're playing Cooper Kupp. You're playing
Pitmania.
Cooper Kupp.
Oh, Cooper, yeah.
We'll keep Cooper Kupp in there.
Okay.
Tight end, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Laporta, Kittle.
Forget about it!
Feels like, other than Mark Andrews, are we missing any big names there?
Darren Waller.
Darren Waller.
I
Forgot he was even playing still.
He's injured. He's been injured.
Right. Oh, there we go.
He's been injured for a while.
There we go.
If only anyone could have anticipated that.
Yeah.
The stick I got on our pre-season pod for having Waller ranked low. Well, I was actually very generous. Very generous. What is he, tight end $1 million?
2 million. 2 million.
Okay. 2 million.
Into the projection beaters for week 14. Players that we think and know. We know it.
No jokes this week.
They're going to beat their ESPN projection by 4 or more fantasy points. Let's start with the running back. And Lou, you can start us off.
I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard, Carolina Panthers, regrettably. Projected 13 points. I made Hubbard my projection beater in week 9, actually, and he made me eat my words a little bit. He was all right, like around 10 points, but he wasn't a hit, really. He's had some lackluster weeks following that. Saw his workload eaten into by Miles Sanders, who is also atrocious. But over the past 2 games, Hubbard, he's come alive again, taking control of that backfield. And in those games, the past 2 that is, he's amassed 3 touchdowns and 196 yards from scrimmage. Certainly in his best form of the season. And he's coming into this game facing the New Orleans Saints, who started the year as a decent defence, sort of all round really, but they've been letting runners slip through over the past few weeks. They've been giving up 165 rushing yards and over 1 rushing touchdown per game over the past 3 matches, which is most in the league over that span. So they are certainly an exploitable rush defence as of late. With this one, I'm picking a player who's been sort of bang on form and against an area of a defence who is way out of form. Hoping that logic pays off by that. I think Hubbard's going to have a nice week.
Nice. Sharps?
I've gone for Joe Mixon, running back for the Bengals. Up against the Colts this week, they've given up the 3rd most points to fantasy running backs, but to be honest, mainly it's purely from last week's display. He's projected 15.2. If he gets that same workload as he got last week, he's going to absolutely smash that. He got 2 touchdowns last week, which have been hard to come by for him this season, but I don't even think he needs that. 19 carries, 7 targets. That kind of workload, even without a touchdown, is probably good for 20 points. So hoping for the same again. Obviously no guarantees, but as mentioned before, if this is what the Bengals looks like going forward, then Mixon's going to be a hell of an asset. And I'm just riding a hot hand on this one, so Joe Mixon.
Nice. I'm going to go Javonte Williams, running back for the Denver Broncos. Projected 13.1 at the Chargers. The Broncos just really need to get this running game going. It's not like Javonte hasn't been getting work. He's top 12 in running back usage if you take away the game earlier in the season that he left early because he got injured. The touchdowns just haven't been there. And he has, admittedly, he's not been super efficient on the ground, but if you just add the league average running back touchdowns, it would shoot him way up fantasy ranks. Only 2 touchdowns on the year, both receiving so far, no rushing touchdowns. We saw this past week that the Broncos cannot rely on Russ just throwing it to Sutton. They need to establish a running game, especially heading into the playoffs, and what a game to do so against the Chargers, who, although they just shut out the juggernaut offense that is the Patriots, they're bleeding fantasy points everywhere. So I'm feeling a nice game for Javonte this week and a get-right game. But that's still, I think, resurgent Broncos team. Lou, tell us about your tight end.
Tight end, I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson. Dallas Cowboys tight end, projected 11.9. The over-under of this game is 53 points. It's a must-win game for both teams. Ferguson, a couple of down weeks recently, but got back last week with a great 6 for 77 and 1 performance. I think, like all the offensive pieces in Dallas, he's going to have to be utilised a lot this week. So, Ferguson, he's going straight in my lineup.
Sharps?
Bit of a boring one this week. Not gone for quite as low a pick as Troutman. Didn't feel good about that, but was effective. I'm going for Gerald Everett, tight end for the Chargers. Broncos giving up the 2nd most points to fantasy tight ends at the minute. Projected 6.4 points, which I think is more than doable, given that since he missed the Packers game a couple of weeks ago, his targets have improved. Don't get me wrong, not by no means a major tight end, but he's getting sort of 4, 5, 6 targets a game, and also Herbert likes him in the end zone as well. So if he can sneak a touchdown, that's probably my hit there. So purely going for the win here on this one, Gerald Everett.
Good. It's good that we're getting some new names in your tight end section, Sharples. It looks like someone's doing some sightseeing in the Lake District on your tight end section. Hill, Trout. And I'm going to go Isaiah Likely, Baltimore Ravens tight end. Still targets up for grabs in this offense, and I think he's warmed up and settled in now. Since I last picked him in this section, he's a capable player. We saw that last year, and the Ravens like thrown to the tight end position. So heading into the playoffs, he needs to get more involved. Great matchup against the Rams, who are giving up, the 6th most points to tight end. So Isaiah Likely to beat just the 9 points this week for me. Let's go wide receiver, Luke.
My wide receiver, I wrote down this guy's name on Friday morning. After I'd finished watching the Cowboys highlights, because I don't want to say this too loudly, okay? But over the past 2 games, the Dallas Cowboys have given up over 160 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns, which is why my wide receiver projection beater is Devonta Smith, projected 13.7. The big numbers when you consider the way this Dallas defense has performed, especially the secondary, up until this point of the season. I'm not saying they're becoming an exploitable secondary. There's still a great defense, but I think the past 2 games shows that they aren't completely unbeatable in that area. You know, whether it's through sheer volume we saw in the Commanders' case a couple of weeks ago, or just elite offensive play in the Seahawks this past week with Geno and DK on top form. And I think that elite play is going to be the case again this week against one of the best, most explosive offenses in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles. Sometimes you just got to ignore the big red number indicating that it's a bad matchup, and you've just got to trust the elite weapons that you have on your fantasy team. And that's what Devonta Smith is. I mean, I've said a lot about Philadelphia's defense. Crap, very crap. But their offense, you know, maybe up until this past week has been absolutely rolling, especially Devonta Smith. Since week 8, Devonta Smith is the wide receiver 6 in fantasy football, averaging over 20 PPR points per game. Side note, in that span, his teammate AJ Brown is the wide receiver 14. And this is Smith through and through as well. Like, 3 years into his NFL career, this is what he's been every single year. He's a slow starter, pretty boom bust to begin the year, always tends to kick on at the end of the season. Go and look at his previous years. This is always what he is. This is why Devonta Smith is great to have if you're a fantasy team who's pushing into the playoffs. You know, he's on his hottest form of the season. Dallas's defense are underperforming more than they have done on the season. The over-under is 53 points. Must-win game. I'm absolutely smashing Devonta Smith in any lineup that I have him.
Nice. Sharps?
Yeah, there's a big red number next to this guy as well, but I'm still going for it. Nico Collins, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, is going up against the Jets, who are the first-ranked defense against fantasy wide receivers. So you're probably thinking, Sharpie, are they painting the corridors again? What's going on? Well, the fact is, Nico Collins with Tank Dell out is going to get about 200 targets. In the past 3 games, he's had 32, and now there's no Tank Dell to compete with him. CJ Stroud loves throwing the ball. They clearly hate the running back room. I don't know why, because Damian Pierce is nice. Devin Singletary's not that good, but they obviously hate them. And so it's all Stroud throwing the ball. Yes, Robert Woods is there, but you know Robert Woods will get about 5 for 30. It doesn't matter about the quality of the defense. Yeah, Stroud is probably going to throw the ball to Collins 20 times, and I want that in my fantasy team. So quite a high projection, 15.5, but given last week, he's shown that he's more than up to it. Yeah, I think this is going to be a smash play.
Nice. I've gone for someone with a high projection as well. I've gone Deebo Samuel, projected 16.1 versus Seattle. I'm all about the yak here, the yards after catch. 49ers have the 6th most yak this season, and it's only going to go up with the way that Deebo is playing. He's on an absolute heater at the minute, 57 fantasy points in the past 2 games. One of the hottest players in the league at the minute, and he gets Seattle. Seattle are a really nice defense to play. And no mistake, they have got a couple of studs at cornerback, Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, but I've factored that into this pick, and that's why I've gone Deebo over Ayuk. I don't want to bank on Ayuk having to win his kind of battle or matchup versus one of those players. I want to see Purdy throwing short just near the line of scrimmage to Deebo, or giving it him in the backfield and watching him run all those yards after catch like he did against the Eagles. He's got game-breaking ability as well that Ayuk's not got, hence why I picked him over Ayuk. And yeah, I think he's going to crush that 16 fantasy point projection. Get Deebo Samuel in your lineups.
Crush it.
Luke,
Okay.
quarterback
is Gardner Minshew, projected 14.3 points.
I like it.
Yeah, the fantasy numbers haven't been much of note, really, for Minshew, but he has been impressive as the Colts quarterback this year. Just look at the record. undeniably having a decent season. And he's found an excellent rapport with his wide receivers, specifically Michael Pittman, who is on track to have his best season of his career so far. He's also coming off one of his better fantasy performances of the season this past week. Call it a coincidence or not, Jonathan Taylor's out. So we saw this passing game do a lot of the heavy lifting last week for this offense. And I think that's going to continue to be the case, which is ideal this week as they're facing one of the more beatable secondaries as of late. It's the Bengals. It's the Bengals, not the Bears or the Browns. It's the Bengals. Over the past month, the Bengals have been giving up over 293 passing yards per game. That's over the past 4 games, which is mental. You have to look at trying to exploit that. We know after this past week, though, the Bengals, they can put up points. They have enough elite playmakers on that offense. But without Joe Burrow, I don't see them having the ability to sort of pull away and sort of hammer a team. So I do think this can be a decent game, very competitive, one that you're probably going to want some players in. And I think that means that Gardner Minshew has a nice week.
Nice. Sharps.
Quarterback, I've gone Josh Dobbs of the Minnesota Vikings. Projected 15 points. I think that's quite low, and I think that's because going into his bye week, he had an absolutely abysmal performance against Chicago, 4 interceptions. But he's had the week off. I assume he's just had his head in that playbook and on the field learning, so I think he's going to be bedded in. Vegas, so-so defense, pretty much exactly middle of the pack. I think it's going to be... I'm not saying it's going to be the most interesting game, but I think we could be seeing, 3 touchdowns apiece here, maybe sort of like the 20-20 sort of score. And I think with potential of Justin Jefferson returning, don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but he has a number next to his name. I just really rate Josh Dobbs. I think it's a low projection because it's been skewed by his performance in Chicago. And if Justin Jefferson comes back, then could easily be a big one. So, Josh Dobbs this week. Not too much numbers behind it, but the Lapsang knows what the Lapsang knows.
All vibes. All vibes. I'm going Matt Stafford. Bold one. Projected 12 at Baltimore. Make no mistake. Baltimore are the hardest defensive fantasy quarterbacks and probably one of, if not the best, defenses in the league. But the Rams just played the Browns this week, who everyone has been saying has got a really good defense, and the fantasy numbers show they've got a really good defense. Well, Stafford had himself a day with 279 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. In fact, he's got 7 touchdowns to 1 pick in the last 2 games, and this Rams certainly seem to be heating up now with Karen back. And I think what is crucial for Stafford is that him and the Rams use Karen in the passing game. Kyron Williams, I'm talking about. They use Karen in the passing game. So that means the 3 most dangerous weapons, the running back and the 2 wide receivers for the Rams, all do a lot of the damage catching passes from Stafford, which is obviously going to be good for Stafford. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those games where the Ravens let the Rams hang around and you see Stafford go off in the second half, blowing that 12-point projection out of the water. Confidence pick, 12 points isn't very much for someone like Matt Stafford, particularly how he's been playing. I think this could be an upset this week. I've not. If I do an accumulator this week, I feel like I'm going to put the Rams on, lads.
I feel like I know this is the point of the projection beat section, but to my ear, you said Stafford a lot. It's lost all meanings. Like, do you not think so? I felt like you said the word Stafford a lot.
Well, that's who I'm picking.
But every sentence.
Stafford.
Do you agree, Ryan? Inpointacrosspod@gmail.com.
Yeah. Let's finish off by looking at the Alex Sharples game tiers. I'm going to bet one of them is in... And even we need to create a lower tier than the lowest tier for one particular game.
Yeah, very true. So, in the bad, we have the Giants against the Packers, the Jets against the Texans, purely because I'm that far down on the Jets, and the Patriots against the Steelers.
That deserves its own.
Side note on that as well, we will be having another backup quarterback in prime time. Yay! Mick Trubisky. Do you know, Sharples, do you know the over-under of this game?
The over-under of the Steelers-Patriots?
Yep.
What is it? I don't know. What is it?
30 points.
13?
30. Give him some respect.
What?
Sharples
15,
had thoughts.
15?
Yeah, well,
No
look,
way.
Sharps,
No
you gotta
way.
think, but no, well, exactly. We're saying no way, but that, like for Vegas, that is an extremely low line. You're talking about like 2 NFL teams and you're saying they're only going to score 15 each. 30 points is an extremely low line.
It's the lowest that I've seen.
And I don't.
In a
And I
while.
also don't think it's going to get there.
Well, obviously people have been betting it down.
Yeah.
People. The reason why it was 30, and I checked this on Monday, and it's still 30. So people aren't betting that number up. You know, people aren't thinking this is going to be a better game than we think.
I would strongly take the under on that. I legit think it's going to finish 7-all.
Nice. What's the next tier?
So, in the Mare, we've got quite a few. There's a few good teams playing not very good teams. It sort of ruins them a bit. We've got the Bears against the Lions, Raiders, Vikings, Dolphins, Titans, Chargers, Bronco, Falcons against the Buccaneers. And I teetered with putting this one in bad, but I kept it in Mare, Saints, Panthers.
Okay.
Saints, Panthers.
It's not going to be a mega game for Chuba Hubbard, I can guarantee that.
Okay, nice.
There you go.
And if I'm wrong, I was joking.
We got 3 in the good. Ravens, Rams, Bengals, Colts, Browns, Jaguars. Although without Trevor Lawrence, that might not be as good. But
You know, you want to know something funny? You said Browns Jaguars in good.
Yeah.
in good, yeah.
Do you want to know the over-under of that game?
Go on.
30.5.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Really?
That's got to be the backup quarterback situation affecting that. And actually, to be fair, the fact that these are 2 teams with good defenses. All I'm thinking with that game, mainly the Steelers-Patriots game, maybe the awfulness of the players evens out, and it's a bit like watching a CFL game. However, there's like a normal amount of points in the game because it's just like rubbish players playing against rubbish players.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right, I think these next 3 pretty easy to guess. Should be absolute smorgasbords of football. We've got the 49ers against the Seahawks, the Chiefs against the Bills, and the Eagles against the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
I would, hot take here, especially considering my Super Bowl picks, but I would risk putting the Chiefs Bills into good just because, like, you look at the Eagles Cowboys and you look at the 49ers, and then it almost seems like a little bit like, when you look at the Chiefs and the Bills, just because
That's
of
fair.
the way
That's
the
fair.
season is turning out for both of those teams. It's a bit like, tell me right now that the Chiefs or the Bills can right now compete with the Eagles, the Cowboys, the 49ers.
It's kind of like we've been saying this season. Everyone came into the season thinking the AFC was this complete juggernaut, whereas all we've seen this season is flaws from AFC teams, whereas the NFC teams I think the 49ers, the Cowboys and the Eagles have the 3 best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think there's too much history between these 2. I think they'll both be coming out playing their A games.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. But that is going to do it.
It is.
For another week.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for listening. The projection beaters will be better this week. 2 Monday night games, which is great. I don't know why.
2 Monday night games.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Which is ideal for us in the UK, because I love getting 4 hours sleep.
Thank you for listening. Enjoy football this weekend.
Enjoy it.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.